Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
This episode of Lost Anarchy Presents has been brought to you by Cigarette.com. There's nothing to think about.
You all know the setup. The whole film is being told from the point of view of a person holding the camera. And while it's debatable whether or not Blair Witch holds up, depending on who you ask, you can't ignore what it inspired. We went from 2 cameras to multiple cameras, quick edits to shots that take up the entire night, crappy quality to really high-end quality. So this means that the art form must have evolved, right?
I'm Trippy the Clown, aka the Metal God, horror movie aficionado.
Let's face it, the Lost Anarchy channel hasn't exactly been kind to the found footage genre, nor has the internet in general. It's been looked upon as a cheap excuse to compensate for a budget of $5, lazy scares and poor acting. The found footage genre has been heavily bashed by numerous critics as stale, boring and repetitive. I, like many popular opinions on the internet, disagree with this. While many found footage movies do fall into that category, I find that when these movies work, they're really the only kind of films that can truly scare me.
Oh yeah!
They destroy the fourth wall and suck you into a world of terror where the lines between fantasy and reality bend.
Oh yeah!
This increases the horror and scares tenfold, and today we're going to be looking at the top 11 found footage horror movies that do just that captivate, enthrall, and above all, terrify to the bone. And away we go.
These go to 11.
Grave Encounters!
Grave Encounters is a very slow film. Very, very slow.
This is an example of how to ruin a good idea.
So slow that many audience members are likely to give up on the movie before it starts to get scary.
I was bored for the entire length of the movie.
I cannot stress enough how much of a mistake this is.
The number of scares that could have been written into the plot were totally missed.
The Vicious Brothers' terrifying ghost story uses its slow pace as a strength, as the movie plays on setting our expectations low and then blowing them away with terrifying jump scares, shock scares, and phenomenal special effects.
If I were teaching a class on filmmaking, I would show this as an example of how not to make a scary movie.
It really almost feels like the first and second halves of this movie are completely different. It's a movie that gets increasingly more terrifying and intense as it goes on, and when it finally gets its claws on you, it never lets go. Even if you don't like the film, you have to love the ambition behind it. A relatively small independent film, Grave Encounters began to gain massive popularity through its trailer, encouraging fans of the trailer to demand midnight releases at their local theatre. And as it turns out, the strategy worked, and the film was a massive hit.
Unless you have time to waste. It's not that great, man. Terrible, boring, contrived, and horribly acted. But that's just my worthless opinion, man.
The film's not perfect, admittedly. TC was an unbelievably annoying character, and, like I said earlier, the pacing can be painfully slow. But if you can ignore its smaller issues, you're most certainly in for a terrifying ride. Number 10. Here's a little trivia for you. This movie came out 1 full year before the Blair Witch Project. And while I don't think it's nearly as good, it's still an extremely scary and intense movie for the budget. The acting, production value, and pacing all feel so damn authentic and real. It's a movie that uses its low budget to its advantage rather than as a crutch.
Alien abduction!
In the fall of 1997, a 16-year-old boy set out to document his family's Thanksgiving dinner. What he purportedly captured on his video camera was more than just a family get-together. The following footage, if real, could be the most important evidence ever, supporting the possibility that we are not alone in the universe. This footage contains explicit and frightening images. Now, for the first time ever, watch the complete and unedited tape and decide for yourself. Alien abduction. Did it happen?
Incident at Lake County.
It's really not that hard to trick yourself into thinking that what you're watching is real here. I can only imagine how much this terrified people back in 1998.
The characters are dumb in this.
Most of the characters are quite likable, and like everything else, actually have that authentic, real feeling with all of the films so obviously going for.
The lines these characters come up with are probably the most ridiculous in the history of movies.
This movie also scores major points for just how tense it is.
Everyone kept shouting.
This movie is all about build-up and slow chills for its scares, as things become more horrific and situations more dire as the film goes on and on.
It's stating the obvious.
It's not a jump-scary movie like Grave Encounters, it's a slow and terrifying descent.
And that's when they're not too busy talking about bullshit.
Also, you can watch this entire movie for free online. It's not really available anywhere else, so you have no excuse to not check it out next Halloween season. It's quite the chilling experience. Number 9.
Grave Encounters 2.
This movie is just so much more interesting than the first Grave Encounters.
As if the first one wasn't bad enough.
The acting's much better, the characters are far more interesting and deep.
I felt cheated out of the scare with this, man.
The story is actually a fairly clever satire to modern horror fans,
Basically,
particularly found footage fans,
if I was the director of this film,
essentially craving snuff films these days.
I would not want to put my name on it.
It's similar to the satire prize in Cabin in the Woods, only a lot less obvious, a lot more clever, and it's not the only thing the film has going for it.
I would credit the movie to, like, fucking John Doe or something, man.
It's also a lot scarier than the first film. The pacing's far better in this one, and the shock and jump scares just feel all around more intense and pulse-pounding. The shock and jump scares from the first on steroids and meth. Without spoiling anything, even some of the characters add to the creepiness and horror of the movie, doing some truly depraved and frightening things as they lose their mind inside the asylum. The only big complaint I have about this movie is the CGI. It's terrible. They actually provide an explanation for this, but it's pretty obvious they only did this as an excuse for the crappy CGI. Put that aside, it's an excellent improvement over the original, and if you enjoy the first, you'll love the second. Number 8.
The Bucks County Massacre!
The Bucks County Massacre is a very cheap movie. You can tell this movie was pretty much funded on the salary of a Burger King employee.
Or should I say the Fox County Massacre?
It also has one of the worst trailers I have ever seen for a horror movie in my life.
What's going on here? What's happening here?
So I should assume that this movie would suck.
Hey, if you like camera shake
I want to thank everybody for coming out to my 25th birthday.
Only, it didn't suck.
and a bunch of amateur actors shouting,
Happy birthday!
screaming, and running around in a stupor, then this is the flick for you.
In fact, it won't.
Don't expect any kind of real plot. Since they claim this is the only video footage that the local cops were willing to release.
Also, this has to do with the characters.
It seems anyone with a video camera nowadays can release shit like this.
I love the characters presented in this movie. They were all well acted, well developed, likable, and relatable. I genuinely didn't want to see them get killed. This also has a lot to do with the film's monster, who is terrifying. The makeup effects on the monster are fantastic, and the aftermath of his slaughter is quite frightening and disturbing to behold. The film takes a while to reveal the monster, but by the time we finally see him and what he can do, we definitely have our nightmare fuel.
Did the fuckers who made this movie even watch it before they released it?
Like Alien Abduction, the film is also free to watch on YouTube, and you have even less of an excuse not to check it out next Halloween. It's well acted, it has excellent characters, it has a terrifying monster. Let's help spread the word about this little gem.
And then we have Lost Tapes.
Number 7.
The idea of the show like this would be interesting, but pretty fucking limited.
Lost Tapes is the perfect horror show. That's not to say it's always terrifying. What I mean is that the show either shit your pants terrifying or laugh out loud unintentionally funny.
Since it's hard to believe
The acting ranges from authentic and incredibly realistic to pathetically, hilariously poor.
that there'd be all these fucking people videotaping shit like this
Well, duh!
just so regularly without even making national headlines all the time.
Lost Tapes has excellent horror atmosphere. While low budget, the sets and effects are just dynamite.
The scare factor's not there,
It also has an excellent fast pace which likes to quickly creep into some truly great suspenseful scares.
and the acting makes it so it's impossible to even fucking suspend fucking reality.
My favorite episode has got to be Dover Demon.
Fuck.
It's truly Lost Tapes at its absolute best and scariest.
Fuck.
The acting is fantastic, the characters are likable, the pacing is perfect, the monster is terrifying,
Fuck.
the atmosphere is creepy as hell.
Fuck.
It's honestly such a good episode that I truly wish they'd make it into a feature-length movie.
Fuck.
The series features plenty of other episodes like Deathcrawler, Devil Dragon, Reptilian, and Vampire that are so scary and so addictive you really feel their only weakness is their length. It's definitely worth at least watching those episodes I mentioned. Number 6.
Paranormal Activity 4.
The first 3 Paranormal Activity movies are terrible. They're poorly acted, poorly characterized, and for the most part, not at all scary. So why in good fuck would I have Paranormal Activity 4 in my top 11 best found footage horror movies of all time?
Why ask why? Try Bud Dry.
Franchise exhaustion.
I'll tell you why. It's literally nothing like those first 3 movies.
Has definitely set in with this one, man.
It's the first film in the series to have even remotely likable characters, or even remotely competent acting.
This one leaves the series treading in water, drowning, and everybody ends up fucking confused.
I have no problem believing that the characters I'm watching on screen are real people reacting to real-life horror. The acting's that good. And furthermore, I'm actually rooting for these characters to survive for the first time in the series. How about that? This movie provides an excellent range of jump scares showing the violence of the demon, and more subtle yet still terrifying scares showing the clear action of a demon but not shoving it in your face. It's funny too. Intentionally funny. I laughed several times at the intentional comedy in this movie. But with that being said, it's still terrifying as all hell. It's one of the best, most horrifying, and most intense endings on this list. I've opted not to show any parts of this segment.
This is the classic case of trying to make something so big the entire franchise loses perspective.
But at the very least, buy the movie for the ending. I know I'll get a lot of hate for praising this movie so highly, but I don't care. It's terrifying, it's fun, it's well acted, it has great characters and creative scares. I love it. I love it. I'll keep saying it if you want.
I'm gonna give you some inside code here. When a studio releases a Paranormal Activity movie in January, that is studio code for, we think this movie sucks ass.
Number 5. This is where we start getting into the true masterpiece of the genre.
So Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones, is the 5th Paranormal Activity movie in the Paranormal Activity franchise, but it's not actually Paranormal Activity 5.
This is where we start getting into the true masterpiece of the genre. Yes, I know that it's kind of weird that I shat all over the first 3 Paranormal Activity movies when I put 4 on this list, and kind of implied that 4 is the only good Paranormal Activity movie in the series, but fuck it, I think this movie is good too. Great even. The ironic thing is that internet critic Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic, actually called this film the worst in the series.
That's right, the next and pray to God last of the Paranormal Activity movies.
Fuck you, entertainment! I don't have to see!
Now, if you're like me, you probably rolled your eyes like the majority of the audience that saw this trailer.
Why? Because it actually had a ghost do real, unexplainable things? Because the characters are both likable and intelligent? Because the characters were proactive, actually going out to help other people rather than just try and save their own sorry asses for the first time in the franchise? Because the acting was actually good? Because the demon was actually violent? Because the pacing wasn't slow as slug shit? Because it's the only film in the franchise with an actual storyline? Because it didn't have endless filler of cameras recording nothing for a good 30 minutes of the movie? There is no universe where this movie is worse than the first 2 Paranormal Activities, or any of the films in the series. On top of that, like 4, this movie actually has something of a sense of humor. It has some of the most likable and sympathetic characters ever in a found footage movie. It's downright tragic and heart-wrenching to see such likable and good people have such terrible and frightening things happen to them. And that increases the horror for me. It's also a possession movie rather than a haunting movie because, let's face it, possession movies are far scarier than haunting movies.
Oh yeah! This is like when you have a game franchise that has a lot of installments, and then they have that storyline that does tie in with the other ones that comes out for the portable systems. That's the Marked One.
That's not to say that all horror just comes from demonic possession, as the demon, as well as the coven of witches worshipping said demon, does find plenty of other violent ways to terrify the audience.
And then in the end of this movie, it tries to do something to make it relevant, but it really just kind of sinks the entire franchise.
The ending of this is pure, unadulterated, shit your pants horror. I don't want to spoil anything in case you haven't seen it, because it's one of the most terrifying and clever endings I have ever witnessed in a horror film, and the surprise is half the fun. But if you hated the first 3 Paranormal Activity movies, you're actually even more likely to enjoy this underappreciated screamfest. It's terrifying, it's hilarious, it's compelling, it's the best movie of the franchise, one of the best horror movies I have ever seen.
Paranormal Activity, The Marked Ones is dog shit.
Number 4.
Afflicted!
Afflicted works on every cylinder.
Run smack into millions of other generic shits.
It's terrifying, it's well acted, it has the best, most likable, most interesting characters of any movie on this list. It's original, it's action-packed, it's perfectly paced, it has a perfect ending. I can't find a single bad thing to say about it.
Probably could have been made with a $50 budget on your fucking camera phone.
And you might be thinking, if that's the case, then make it number 1. But here's the thing.
Follow me around, shaky videotape.
While this movie is terrifying with its excellent use of tension and the main character's transformation and hunger as a vampire, it's not quite as scary as any of the other films in the top 3, unfortunately.
The only halfway decent part of this fucking movie was the picture to advertise it.
But perhaps I just need to rewatch this movie. Perhaps if I rewatched it, it might be higher. Even number 1. Because honestly, number 4 feels far too low for a new horror classic of this magnitude.
This is the most obnoxious and unbearable movie I've seen all fucking year. And I've seen Unfriended.
Number 3.
Unfriended!
Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I really thought that this movie was just going to blow. Like most of you watching, I thought this movie would be nothing more than a massive gimmick and marketing fest for Skype filled with bad acting that took itself way too seriously and was never scary. But none of that was true. The movie isn't gimmicky. It does a great job of creating horrifying tension by having the ghost of Laura Barnes play head games with teenagers to get them to outright hate each other and eventually, well, buckle under pressure and get killed. It sort of shows some downright ghoulish, violent, horrific kill scenes. It makes that perfect sweet spot between slasher and psychological horror, and the film does a great job of putting you in a constant state of fear. Both its shock scares and its subtler, less over-the-top scares are downright horrifying, and had me frozen in terror, goosebumps trailing down my armored spine. The acting all around is excellent. Teenagers here actually acted like real teenagers, which is often quite rare in found footage movies.
I don't mind this movie.
What a disappointment.
And while the characters did do terrible things, they are somewhat likable and get you to root for them to survive.
I first saw the trailer for this late last year, and I thought the idea behind it was neat. I mean, a Skype horror film? I was looking forward to it. I thought, hey, that's a neat idea. If they do it right, it could work. And they didn't. It's about 6 friends who are having a Skype chat, and there's this mysterious person there who they don't know who it is. It comes out that this is the 1-year anniversary of somebody who used to be a friend of theirs killing themselves. And after some shenanigans, they more or less come to the conclusion that the person who's there is the ghost of the girl who killed herself. I mentioned this in the Gallows review, but why is it every modern found footage movie, everyone has to be an asshole? There's not one likable character here. They're all just the worst people ever.
They're stupid kids, but they don't want to actually hurt anybody. Some of them even make some pretty noble sacrifices for each other, and the 3 main characters of Adam, Mitch, and Blair are all very well developed and go through some very well written arcs. And on top of that, the movie can be downright intentionally hilarious when it wants to be.
Some intense fucking parts, but I could definitely use more gore.
It's the best mixture of true horror and true comedy that I've seen since the 80s.
The chick who shit her pants was funny too, ha.
The movie's only come out this year and already it's a Halloween must-watch for me. Go into it wanting to be disappointed and you will make sure that you are.
People film me doing that all the time and put it on the internet, ha.
Number 2.
The Blair Witch Project!
Ah yes, The Blair Witch Project. While it may not have been the first found footage horror movie ever made, it's certainly the one that pushed found footage into the mainstream.
Most overhyped movie ever!
Okay, we're up here to document this legend. A long time ago on the top of this summit was this old mining town. It was back during the days of the gold rush around 1850. Women of this town were mining with their husbands, things like that. Well, like all gold mining towns, this prostitute came.
Hey, Nikki, don't you think this looks pretty creepy?
I've seen this movie about 5 times, and for me, it's still a terrifying film.
If you're looking for something to scare you, look somewhere else, man.
It's very easy to trick yourself into thinking that it's real for 1 hour and 21 minutes, thanks to the acting, production values, sound effects, and cinematography of the film. The low-budget nature only adds to the scares. The whole mythology behind the Blair Witch and the town of Burkittsville is incredibly creepy and extensive. The writers just put their heart and souls into this project. The acting is the best I've seen in a found footage movie. The characters are all sympathetic and likable. Scares are nightmare fuel. 2 words. Laughing children. And the ending will downright fuck up your nerves with terror. The second film is one of the worst movies of all time in my personal opinion, and I'd really love to see a third Blair Witch Project movie created someday. But that's a topic for another video. So yeah, Blair Witch is one of the best and scariest horror movies of all time, and the second best found footage horror movie or TV show ever made.
And then what happened?
Number 1.
REC, or Record, or whatever the fuck it's called.
This movie is a trip to psychological hell, and I mean that in the best possible way. Rec has been the scariest movie I've ever watched for over 3 years now, and I don't see any movie, past, present, or future, ever beating it. Its timing, its use of tension, its mythology, its setting, its atmosphere, its acting, its monsters.
The beginning wasn't too bad.
This is not a film that you watch if you want a fun, scary movie.
It seemed okay.
It's terrifying to the point where you don't even want it to be terrifying anymore.
That's until it leaves from the fire station.
The last 10 minutes are easily the most terrifying footage ever put to film, starting with a spine-chilling recording on the mythology of the film's zombies, and ending with the 2 protagonists coming face to face with the source of the apartment's evil.
And it fucking goes all down the toilet after that.
It will give you nightmares.
It doesn't look fresh anymore, man.
Hell, It already is something of a nightmare brought to cinematic life.
Go find a real zombie movie.
If you want to be scared, and I mean really want to be scared, watch it. Right now. You have no excuse.
If you got the fucking choice, man.
Well, those are my favorite found footage movies. Let me know in the comments which picks you agree with, disagree with, and what your own list of favorites is. Boys out.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe or I will scratch your eyeballs out.
This episode has been brought to you by Cigarette.com. There's nothing fake about it. We're the source for electronic cigarettes. Welcome to the 21st century. Quit smoking and start vaping. No tar, no secondhand smoke, no pollution, no offensive odors. Smoke without the guilt. We carry everything from egos to traditional electric cigarettes and a full line of accessories. So please come on down to Cigarette.com. All of our flavors are produced right here in the United States, and we can even say our flavors are kosher. So for the best flavors, the best vaping experience that you can get, go to Cigarette.com. And remember, all the flavor you will get vaping on your cigarette at Cigarette.com. That's Zigret.com.